let's get in here with Clay Henry. Talk about this Arkansas Texas A&M battle. No need to go over all this stuff about, is this bad for recruiting now? Should this be on campus sites and everything?
We've already talked about that.
Let's just understand that that's going to happen. For this game specifically, Clay, Cody called in earlier, and he brought up the first thing that I wanted to ask you about. You need Ricky Stromberg and Dalton Wagner. It kind of feels like you need both of them because Sam Pittman has been so complimentary of specifically his center and his tackles that it just feels like if two out of those three guys are not playing, and with all due respect to Ty Clary playing at the center position and moving Brady Latham over to right tackle, it just feels like, I don't know, feel a lot better about this game if both Stromberg, even one of them was out there.
You're right, and that's the critical aspect. I think I've mentioned in my keys the best teams are the ones that when you get to the end of the season, and that's in all due respect to all the other positions, but the best teams are the ones that have the same offensive lineman for 12 games, and it happens. It's not usual. You're going to have a guy here or there, and of course, the last several years, it's been really musical chairs. You didn't know who you're going to have week to week, and it was lots of times true freshmen or walk-ons. I remember being stunned 4 years ago. I guess it would be 5 years ago when we would look out there for the first snap. Brett Bielema started Ty Clary at guard. A true freshman walk-on that had never played guard in a game. He played left tackle at Fayetteville High. So those are the kind of things that you have to avoid. You want to have experience, in that offensive line. It's the hardest position to play and requires the most experience, the most snaps. You have to have a mesh. You have to know what you're doing. And in this offense, which you never huddle up, there's not a lot of opportunity to say, hey, young fella, this is what we do on this play. Because you're getting that signal from the sideline 6 ticks before the snap. They're holding the play call and waiting to put the defense in a bind, so they have to line up late. And there's not a lot of communication that can happen, so they have to know it. And so when you shuffle in the offensive line, it's problematic.
Well, and again, with all due respect to Ty Clary, specifically to him, because Sam Pittman has said he's an extremely valuable player. You can't discount that at all. But the starters are starters for a reason, and that's what I keep going back to. On the A&M side, Clay, like their offensive line has been a little bit of a mess. They had 4 starters that left and were onto the NFL or graduate. They bring in a left tackle from Tennessee, and he wasn't all that good at Tennessee, Jameer Johnson. They've got a true freshman at center, a world-class athlete outside from playing football, I know, but I don't know. It feels like there could be an opening for Arkansas defensively to really create some pressure.
Yes, and that's I was talking with Travis Brown, who writes for the Bryan paper, College Station, yesterday. He and I are on the Football Writers Selection Committee, All-American Committee, the 2 SEC reps, and we just point blank came up with the same key to the game, and it's which of these offensive line can handle a little adversity, because it's happening on both sides. Now, to Arkansas's credit, all of their guys that they're talking about playing, and I think I would not discount Ricky Stromberg from being out there. Now whether he finishes the game, that's another matter. Dalton Wagner, I think, has a chance to be out there. This back thing, it flares up, he gets spasms, and then he's, it's done for a little while, and then he's better, and then they come back. So he could be able to play. Key is that these guys, they probably need to practice a little bit today to give them confidence that that they can go. You don't practice in the offensive line. You don't probably don't get to play. So, but Texas A&M, you go across the board, and they've got a transfer at left tackle. They've got a freshman redshirt at left guard. Luke Matthews is supposed to be their center, Clay Matthews' son. He's a junior, played one letter. Terrific player. Everybody thinks that he's the next great one there at Texas A&M. But he's been hurt, and he hasn't played in 3 games. He's practicing a little bit this week. He has not played or practiced the last month. It would be doubtful that he would make a huge impact in the game. But Bryce Foster, the true freshman, and then another true freshman behind him, Wyckoff, they're not sure which one of those gives them their best chance. Neither one have played very well. And they might throw Luke Matthews in there in the second half if things aren't going well. But they don't want to play Luke without having him practice. Layden Robinson either is hurt or hasn't played well, maybe a little bit of both, is the right guard. And so Kenyon Green, who's their best player, played guard last year, is an NFL prospect, moved him to right tackle, which is where he thinks he can make his money in the NFL, and that's where he wants to play. Out of desperation, they moved him to right guard last week, and he wasn't happy. Blake Traynor, who's a sophomore, played in his stead. And they have not been a cohesive unit in the offensive line. And they'll get better because these are all highly regarded players, highly recruited, viewed as great talents. But that's not what makes a good offensive line. What makes a good offensive line is reps, experience, and knowledge of what they're doing and what their teammate beside them is doing.
Clay, just face value of this game, without doing an incredible deep dive into both sides, it feels like both sides.
Oh, let's do deep dive. Let's do deep dive.
All right. Well,
I'm joking. I'm joking. Go ahead, Drew.
Both defensive plans is to take away the run and to make Calzada for A&M have to beat you with his arm, and for our A&M's plan is to make KJ have to beat them with his arm. So if both defensive strategies work, and this basically is a no on the ground type of game, who has the favor? Who do you think would be favored in a Calzada or KJ matchup if it's only through the air?
Okay, I'm gonna. You asked a good question, and I'm not gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna do a deep dive.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think it's more complicated than that, because Texas A&M has not stopped the run this year. They did last year. They have struggled. They've given up chunk plays. This is an experienced defense, but for whatever reason, they've been bothered. Running quarterbacks have bothered them, and you wouldn't think that New Mexico and Kent State would have superior players, but they've hurt them with some chunk plays. So I think Arkansas can run the ball a little bit, which is critical, because then takes away the blitz, which is what they want to do. Now, I'll get to your question now. Who can pass it? Well, it comes down to which offensive line can protect. Arkansas didn't protect in critical situations last year. Franks had a lot of running yards, but he also had some sacks. Arkansas did not touch Kellen Mond. Did not touch him. And he passed, let's look at the stats, 21 out of 26 with a couple of throwaways. Can this offensive line protect him? I don't think they can. I think that's the critical aspect about this. I think Calzada is a game manager. I think he's much of a running threat, which really helps Arkansas's pass rush. Now, I'm going to wrap all this up by saying I think Arkansas has a chance to win. Texas A&M has the better players. They've got this, the kind of the momentum in this series. But I think you throw momentum out, because this is a different Arkansas team with a different mindset, and I think it's going to be a terrific game with a lot of fun. And I give Arkansas the advantage in the passing game with K.J. Jefferson, based on what I've seen 3 games, based on what I've seen Texas A&M.
Well, let's touch on that. Let's touch on that in the next segment. As Clay just is that called dove into the game? as Ty might,
Man,
call it.
I like deep dives, man. I used to go up to the platform and do 3 flips.
Got any questions for Clay? Get them in, 877-377-6963. And halftime comes right back. We got another segment with Clay Henry, publisher, editor, Hogs Illustrated. On the Morning Rush, of course, twice a week, and gives us a couple pieces of his mind every Wednesday here on Halftime. 877-377-6963 if you got questions for Clay. Clay, we went into the commercial break. You told us you feel like they're like Arkansas might have the chance to have the better passing day than Texas A&M, and KJ has, I think he's looked good. I mean, he made a couple of really gorgeous throws in the Georgia Southern game, and statistics, the stats do speak for themselves usually. What have you seen in these first 3 weeks specifically that makes you think that they could have success against the Texas A&M defense?
Well, I think that you see that they have a couple of big-time players at wide receiver. I really like what I see in Warren Thompson. He's the kind of receiver that would be fought over by Texas A&M, Arkansas. I mean, he was a 4-star, went to Florida State. Kendall Briles had him, and he knows the offense because he was in Kendall Briles' offense there, and he has stepped in and has done a marvelous job. I mean, it's just there's a reason why they gave him a scholarship this week or last week, whenever it was. But I think that you also see growth with excuse me, with Traylon Burks playing a little better, and I suspect that you'll see a little more from him this week. And those are guys that can make plays against the top athletes in the SEC, and that's part of it. And I continue to see growth with Blake Kern. I think you'll see the tight end used. In fact, the tight end in this game might be a critical aspect because Texas A&M has got a great one with Jalen Weidermeyer, and he's Arkansas has to account for him. And just remember, 85 for Texas A&M. You better account for him. And when you're trying to stop the run with your linebackers and safeties, and you get a play-action fake, that tight end has got to step on you. And now Kellen Mond could find him. Now I don't know how Calzada will be. Knowing that this is a play where I've got to convert 3rd and 8, and I'm gonna hang in the pocket for 3 or 4 counts after this play action so he can run this crossing route. And they could do that with that offensive line last year. So, again, I'm going to go back to how each team protects, and can they run it a little bit so that play action works. And maybe they can't. Maybe it's going to be a low-scoring game, which I like that in Arkansas's favor. I'm excited about this game. This is what football ought to be in the SEC. This is a big-time game that affects the season for bowls and everything else.
Yeah, Clay, and if everything goes to basically according to Sam Pittman's plan and the way that you just laid it out, not just for me and Phil, but our entire audience, and they're able to win the Southwest Classic and get that 9-game losing streak off their back, would this A&M win replace the feather in Sam Pittman's cap as best win, replacing the Texas win 2 weeks ago, or do you still think that one was more important just due to the momentum that it's brought and the recognition it's brought to the program? Would A&M win take over that top spot?
Well, I don't know that you ever replace a victory over Texas, but this is a 9-game losing streak against a team that you're recruiting against. So the combination of the two trumps just beating Texas. And I know what the headline on our magazine will say next week. If Arkansas wins, it'll say they've beaten Rice, they've beaten Texas, they've beaten Texas A&M. Do you have a headline for me?
I'm guessing Texas State champs.
Boom, you got it. So 95, they were Alabama State champs. They beat Auburn in Alabama. This is comparable. I mean, it's when you recruit in Texas against the top 2 teams, and it's huge. Now, the Texas A&M game has grown in importance since Texas A&M has won games. So you need to end that stream, and so But is it bigger than Texas? No, it's not. But it's important, and it's a game that I know Arkansas coaches have circled for several years. They knew that you want to start. You don't want to be 0-1 in the SEC every year. That's what it's been for 9 years.
Well, and it's also, Clay, it's like the same idea behind the losing streak to Missouri, which is now 5 years in a row. It's like these are the two schools that you want to make fun of, probably more than most, for obvious reasons in Texas A&M's case, and for Missouri because they still don't really feel like it's an SEC
because it's
school.
Missouri.
But all they have to do is say, we've beaten you 9 straight games. Like, your jokes don't really mean anything now. A win over Texas A&M means we get to keep telling those jokes, and now you've got a little something behind it.
Yeah, I still know the jokes, and I'm ready, but I'm not going to tell any this year. Right. I'm just not. So, and I can do a whole segment with A&M jokes. I mean, they're part of my DNA, and I keep saying that the Aggies are Aggies and they'll screw it up, but they haven't of late. And Jimbo Fisher has been a good hire, and they know it. I don't know how much more money they can lop onto that contract, but this is the start of saying we don't need to give him any more money if Arkansas wins, and that's part of it.
We've had to hold on to the Aggies jokes until basketball season, and when you get to use them during baseball season, but you try to break them out in football season, it's like
it doesn't hold the same
SEC,
way.
It just.
I still got them though. I haven't forgotten.
Got a whole book of them. Don't you?
I'll be ready, but you need to beat them first.
Got a whole book of them. Hey, Clay, 68% of Arkansas's offensive snaps have resulted in a running play. I don't. There might be one other team in the league that has a percentage of running plays that's higher than that. I think it might be Tennessee, but that's it. Is this can that stay? Can that percentage remain the same? Throughout now your SEC schedule, which now begins this weekend.
No, it probably won't, and it's but it'll stay that way until somebody stops it. I mean, until somebody says no, you can't. And if you have to put too many in the box, well, then you're leaving yourself open to one-on-one coverage with Treylon Burks, and that's a losing proposition. And Tyson Morris is beating one-on-one guys. I mean, I think he's going to see better quarterbacks as we move forward. Devion Warren is a guy that looks like he's got his health back, and I think there's Warren Thompson. So they've got some weapons, and I believe that they're capable of exploiting a defense that's overloaded to stop the run. And the key aspect is, can you protect when there's 7 or 8 in the box? Because that means 7 or 8 can come after the quarterback. Now, there's something to be said for a running quarterback. If you load up and they, and all at once you're masked at the line and you crease it, well, KJ Jefferson's going to run a long ways. And there's not very many safeties that want to tackle him. I won't forget this soon. Steve Sarkisian said he's a big human. I mean, he is.
And he's designed to run too. And
designed to run over you.
No
too.
question.
And look at the box score from last year, and I had forgotten exactly how all of these yards came. But Felipe Franks ran for 111 yards. When you counted the sacks, he ended up with 91. But Felipe wasn't really a running quarterback either. So they were able to find ways to get him through last year, and it wasn't just on scrambling.
No, when A&M lined up with the blitz look, with the pressure look, and they hit the weak spot in that because they knew they had man-to-man in the secondary. And when you have man-to-man and you run deep routes, the DBs turn their back. And I just have this vision of Felipe running, through the middle. Once he creased the line of scrimmage, there was going to be a long ways to run before anybody touched him. And That'll be the same thing this week if that's what Texas A&M decides to do. So you may get some help with the running quarterback, but that is, without question, that is a blitz deterrent, and that sets you up to play against straight defense, which really helps your offensive line.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really does feel like you keep throwing the term around sometimes, puncher's chance. I feel like Arkansas has got maybe a better than a puncher's chance in this one. Clay, we're coming up against it here, so we'll leave it there. Looking forward to seeing you Saturday at AT&T Stadium, and we'll be talking about it with you next week.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Phil. I appreciate y'all having me.
All right, you got it,
Have
Clay.
a good one, Clay.
Clay Henry, Hogs Illustrated, and he'll be on the Morning Rush later on this week. Hey, if you're looking for a new job, a new trade that can make a great living for you and your family, maybe get a look at welding. United Welding Institute in Pottsville can help you find great-paying jobs everywhere welders are needed. Many make up to $2,000 per week or more. If you're interested but not sure if welding is something that is for you, United Welding Institute has a free trial. Take you through some steps to see if this will work for you. No strings attached. They can also help you obtain a GI Bill, scholarship, or student loan. 479-968-3390, UnitedWeldingInstitute.com, the website for all the information. Second hour halftime next.
We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back to start another football season. And as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the college and pro football action this season. With a new updated site and interface and even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything college football. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. Don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts.